At some point in our lives, we just sort of become a story.
So like a great Shakespearean actor, you're playing a lot of roles. You're a son, you're a father, you're a husband. Now, how many versions of those stories are there? Infinite. So your mind, your body, and your experience of the world is the fluctuations of your formless self. And it's a journey.
Are you afraid to die?
No, not at all. In fact, every night I do a meditation on my death, and then I say, who is imagining that? What is imagining that? Now let me try and get rid of that which is imagining death. And you can't. Just like you can't get rid of the space, you can't get rid of consciousness.
That is so awesome right there. So, hey guys, listen, we're all trying to get more productive. And the question is, how do you find a way to get an edge? I'm a big believer that if you're getting mentoring or you're in an environment that causes growth, a growth-based environment, that you're much more likely to grow and you're going to grow faster. And that's why I love Growth Day. Growth Day is an app that my friend Brendan Burchard has created that I'm a big fan of. Write this down, growthday.com/ed. So if you want to be more productive, by the way, he's asked me, I post videos in there every single Monday that get your day off to the right start. He's got about $5,000, $10,000 worth of courses that are in there that come with the app. Also, some of the top influencers in the world are all posting content in there on a regular basis, like having the Avengers of personal development and business in one app. And I'm honored that he asked me to be a part of it as well and contribute on a weekly basis, and I do. So go over there and get signed up. You're going to get a free, tuition-free voucher to go to an event with Brendan and myself and a bunch of other influencers as well. So you get a free event out of it also. So go to growthday.com/ed. That's growthday.com/ed. Welcome back to the show, everybody. So excited. This is one of my favorite people I've ever had on the show. You know, we've had 800 episodes. We've had about everybody on the world you would want to have on, and I enjoyed my conversation last time with this man so much. I look forward to it, and it exceeded my expectations. He's I guess I'd say he's a hero of mine. He truly is. He's a force for good in the world and has been for a long time. It's impossible to introduce him adequately. This man's written 90 books. You know, he's influenced millions of people around the globe. I guess I'd say he's sort of this guy that merges like spirituality and modern science for like holistic wellness and health. And it's just a force for good. He's transformed millions of lives, including mine. And I cannot wait to pick his brain today about his new book, because I read the entire book in one setting today. And one setting. It's called Digital Dharma, How AI Can Elevate Spiritual Intelligence and Personal Well-Being. So we're going to talk AI, but this book is almost like a handbook for Dharma, is what I would call it, far beyond just AI. So Deepak Chopra, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Let's start with some basic terminology first. Is Dharma, is the real meaning of Dharma, because you actually give these AI versions of it in the book, actually, but is Dharma just like your best life?
Yeah, it's your best life. Very well put. And also how you fit in the total order of the universe, if you do. Okay, so Dharma is originally defined in the Buddhist tradition, and you summarize it, your best life possible. And I'm going to steal that from you, but it's a rewording of the original meaning, freedom from suffering. So freedom from suffering is the ultimate dharma, not only for yourself, but if you're a bodhisattva, then for other people. You dedicate your life to freedom of suffering for yourself, but for everyone else.
Okay, so we've laid a foundation there. So AI, just to begin with, you paint, I would call it beyond a rosy picture. You actually call it the miracle machine in the book. Whereas I've had Mo Gaudet on, you know, who is the chief technology officer at Google, that other people on there sort of paint a more, I guess I'd call it scary picture of what AI could do to humanity. So I was actually relieved to see somebody I look up to and I admire say, no, this could actually be something that enhances consciousness and the spiritual walk in our life. So I'll kind of just let you start with that first. Why do you feel that way?
Yeah, actually, I was recently in Cannes, and I was in the same room as Elon Musk, and he was speaking before me, and he was painting the dark side of AI. He didn't stay for my talk, obviously, which was immediately following his, where I pointed the other side, the light side of AI. So to answer your question, Ed, technology is neutral, and every time a technology comes, there is the naysayers, and then there are the optimists, and you know, they're both right. You can use technology for diabolical purposes, or you can use technology to create a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world, which was my conversation with Sam Altman,
Mm,
who is the CEO of OpenCI. He is on my side of the argument.
mm,
And while, I've been on many panels discussing the dark side of AI, including some government panels,
mm,
and uh, on Zoom, like you and I are. And while they're discussing all the problems that AI could create, I've been going on AI while the conversation is going on. I go to ChatGPT. How can we prevent this? How can we prevent this? So AI already has the knowledge how to prevent the
mm.
diabolical aspects. We just need the collective will to make that happen. Now, will
Right,
that happen? I don't know.
right.
First time I came to the United States, I hadn't seen a television set.
Mm,
And, it was shocking to me that you
mm,
could see people on the screen in color. Okay. Then came fax machines, then came the internet, and every time there was a new technology introduced. And I remember when the first uh, email came, first time we knew of email, I took a computer and, I took it home to my father in India, who was a very sophisticated person, brought up in England, professional cardiologist, at one time, physician to the Queen. I showed him how to use the computer
mm.
or the email. So then I returned to the United States and I get a letter in the mail. He had actually typed out a whole email, put
Ah,
it in the
great
mail,
edit.
sent it to me, where it said, "This email thing is absolutely great." But he didn't get it, okay? What the whole purpose of email was. So, I'm sure when fire was invented, people had misgivings about it. I'm sure with all the technologies that have ever come through, there are risks, whether it's automobiles or jet planes or interstellar travel or whatever.
Mm,
And either we adapt or we, according to Darwinian principles, we become extinct. I mean, the point is, once something is born, it cannot return to the womb. Once you learn how to speak or write in English, you can't unlearn it.
mm,
Once the technology comes, and I believe technology is part of the evolution
mm,
of a species, that's how we differentiated from all other species. We started with making tools, and then we kept improving the technology. That's what technology means, ultimately, tools, And because we had an opposable thumb, we started to make tools, and then it kept progressing. There's
mm.
no going back. Either we use it for a more, divine purpose, or, we don't adapt. We become irrelevant.
It's interesting, everybody. I want you to read the book because something just happened to me when he said that. Just tell you, my arms got a little goosies there. I got a little piece about this when you just said it that way. I want to tell you what you said that hit me. You talked about the fact that, I mean, everyone knows what he just said, but I wanted to give you guys the part that affected me, that everyone needs to realize this. That is what differentiates us as a species. Is this evolution of tools and equipment and technology. And we've found our way to be okay. And this is a huge revolution, but at the same time, that for some reason, if you read the book and you hear what he just said, it will give you this level of peace. So, hey guys, I want to jump in here for a second and talk about change and growth. And by the way, it's no secret how people get ahead in life or how they grow. And also taking a look at the future. If you want to change your future, you got to change the things you're doing. If you continue to do the same things, you're probably going to produce the same results. But if you get into a new environment where you're learning new things and you're around other people that are growth oriented, you're much more likely to do that yourself. And that's why I love Growth Day. Write this down for a second. growthday.com/ed. My friend Brendan Bouchard has created the most incredible personal development and business app that I've ever seen in my life. Everything from goal setting software to personal accountability, journaling, courses, thousands of dollars worth of courses in there as well. I create content in there on Mondays where I contribute, as do a whole bunch of other influencers, like the Avengers of influencers and business minds in there. It's the Netflix for high achievers or people that want to be high achievers. So go check it out. My friend Brennan's made it very affordable, very easy to get involved. Go to growthday.com/ed. That's growthday.com/ed. The book, by the way, everybody, I think is almost 2 books. There's the AI element of the book, but there's also kind of the handbook for better living, I guess I would call it, or higher consciousness woven together in the book. Use a term in there that I should have heard before because I'm 53 years old and I've read about everything. But this idea, this notion, I'd like you to talk about with everybody of spiritual IQ, which is different than just, our intellect level, but having a spiritual IQ. And everybody, when Deepak talks about this, just ask yourself about where you feel you are in terms of your spiritual IQ journey, because this is really powerful right here.
Yeah, so, first we have to define what spirit is. So, spirit is synonymous with consciousness, synonymous with awareness, synonymous with what I believe is fundamental reality, because without consciousness, there's no experience. So if you want to define consciousness, which is another word for spirit, by the way, it is that in which all experience occurs. It's that in which all experience is known, and it is that out of which all experience is made. Now, that's a little difficult for people to realize, because they think experience happens in the brain, or experience happens in the mind, or experience has a location somewhere in this body. So if I ask your audience, where is this experience happening? This one that you and I are having, they're seeing us, they're listening to us, they're thinking about it, and they're hearing sounds, they're seeing images, they're seeing forms, they're seeing the liquor bar behind you, they're seeing the bookshelf behind me. Where is this happening? And a lot of people will say, seeing is happening in the eyes. Seeing is happening in the eyes. Well, no, your eyes are 9.5 centimeters apart. Your retina is curved. By the time light enters your eyes, it crosses over. And then if there's an image in your eyes, you should be seeing 2 of me upside down, 9 centimeters apart and 2.5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters. So this experience of seeing is not happening in your eyes. Then you ask neuroscientists, where is it happening? They'll point here. They'll say it's happening in the occipital cortex. Well, if I look at the occipital cortex, there's no picture of Ed out there. There's no picture of me. There's no picture of the alcohol behind you. There's no picture of the book. So where are those pictures? This is called the hard problem of consciousness in today's science, because there's no picture in the brain. There's no sound in the brain. There is no experience in the brain, period. All there is electrochemistry. And this is called the hard problem. We see the neural correlates of experience. They're called NCEs, the neural correlates, which are electrochemical activities, NCEs. But where is the experience actually happening? And the only answer is in consciousness. Okay, then the next thing is, where is this consciousness where all this experience is happening? I can't see it. Well, you can't see it because it is what is doing the seeing. I tell you, Ed, look there, listen to me. So who is that which responds to that? So look there, look that. What is the source of volition, and where is the experience of sound, taste, smell, sensation, images, feelings, thoughts, imagination, visualization, insight, intuition, imagination, whatever experience, mental or physical you're having, where is it happening? Consciousness. I can't see it because it doesn't have a form. If it had a form, you can only see things that have form. Okay, you can only touch things that have form. You can only taste and smell things that have form. You can only make sound with things that have form, but none of that is happening in your brain. So it's happening in your consciousness, in your spirit, Where is it? It has no form. Having no form, it doesn't have a border. It doesn't have a border means it's infinite. It has no location. And that's why we say these days the word is non-local. And even scientists are saying the universe is non-locally entangled. We got the Nobel Prize 2 years ago for non-local entanglement, the physicists who described this. So there is a domain of reality, doesn't matter what you call it, which is without cause, which is infinite, which is spaceless, which is timeless, which is infinite, which is borderless, which has no form, and yet it is fundamental because without it, there's no experience, without either mental or physical. So once we get that, and then we say, how do we create a roadmap to explore this territory, which has been the domain in the past of sages, psychotics, and geniuses, and a few people who showed up who questioned everyday reality, not just Eastern philosophers, but Wittgenstein and Schopenhauer and Immanuel Kant, who said, we can only see the correlates of experience. We can see the reflections of experience, but the thing in itself, where the experience is happening, is the unknown. And that unknown, possibly unknowable, because it's impossible for us to comprehend the infinite. People have tried, God, this, that, the other, but impossible to comprehend the infinite. We only see the activities or appearances of the infinite, and people have created tools. And I said it's a motley group of sages, psychotics, and
Yeah.
geniuses, because you have to break through the hypnosis of social conditioning in order to find the spirit or consciousness in which mind happens, in which body happens, in which the universe happens, all simultaneously. It's, I would say, polycomputational. And now when we look at biological organisms, the cells in our body, mitochondria, the very, very fundamental activities, it's polycomputational, which means everything is happening all at the same time. How does a human body think thoughts, play a piano, kill germs, remove toxins, make a baby all at the same time? That has to be polycomputational. Okay. Then while your body is doing that, it's tracking the movement of stars and planets as biological rhythms, sleep-wake cycles, etc. So for me, this is very interesting that we can use technology as a roadmap, but it's a roadmap. It's not the territory. You have to have the experience. Just like when you go to a restaurant, you can read the menu and you can even imagine the experience, but you have to eat the meal. You can't eat the menu.
So now you know why I think this man's so special. What happens when he starts speaking or you're reading his writing? Here's what happens to you, and it's going to be my next question. You become more aware of things that were already happening around you that you were unaware of because you are a series of patterns in your life. And by the way, it's such a great metaphor that there's alcohol behind me and books behind him. That's just so perfect. Like but
They're both, by the way, they're both intoxicating.
they are. You're right. By the way, I'm intoxicated by both. It's probably I actually combine the two often. However, said that, this
One
I
is called spirit, the other is called spirits.
there you go. That's very good. Spirit and spirits. You got me there. So the third generation Range Rover Sport is the most desirable, advanced, and dynamically capable yet. Range Rover Sport redefines sporting luxury with an instinctive drive and engaging on-road dynamics and effortless composure. Advanced cabin technologies such as active noise cancellation and cabin air purification offer new levels of comfort and refinement. A purposeful cockpit-like driving position sets the tone for a focused interior that promotes exhilarating driver engagement. The award-winning Pivi Pro infotainment is at the heart of the experience and provides intuitive control of all vehicle systems. Range Rover Sport. Design your Range Rover Sport at LandRoverUSA.com. This idea of awareness, though. So one of the things of this spiritual IQ, technology to me, I'm going to push you on something, has caused my overall experience with other people. As I observe humans compared to, say, 30 years ago, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like self-awareness is at an all-time low, or just awareness because of our focus into our telephones. So I think technology has been a detriment to self-awareness, yet you stipulate in the book that self-awareness is one of the pathways to enlightenment and a higher level of consciousness, more peace in our lives. So that's why I'm sort of conflicted about this AI thing to some extent still. And so everybody, ask yourself these questions in the book. If you don't mind me giving a little part of the book, when we were talking about spiritual IQ, he asks a series of 12 things you could ask yourself. I'll do them quickly, then I'll ask a question. Number one, everyone, are you experiencing joy or bliss on a regular basis? Rank yourself. Two, do you show kindness in how you treat others? Rank yourself. Do you feel genuine contentment? Four, am I peaceful inside? Five, I enjoy my work and I'm personally dedicated to it. Six, I have a creative outlet either at work or as a hobby. Seven, I have love in my life and I place high value on love. Ask yourself these questions. Eight, in comparison with others, I meet with few setbacks, obstacles, and resistance. Nine, I am free from anxiety or depression. 10, I believe that I am leading the life I was meant to live. 11, in the larger scheme of things, I believe that my life has purpose and meaning. And then lastly, I value and seek insight about myself. These are 12 questions to ask yourself, could change your life. I ask them to everybody to ask you this question. You stipulate this thing about self-awareness being this pathway. How does one become more self-aware, and how does AI help in that and not become just another hindrance, which in my opinion, technology has been a hindrance in that regard?
Technology has been a hindrance in that regard because unfortunately, most of humanity behaves like a biological robot, and they're basically downloading the cultural mindset, whatever it is, which recycles. Cultural mindset includes religion, whether I'm a socialist, Republican, whatever, all the things that society tells me I should do to fit in. And now with the AI, and all the technology we have, it's become worse. One thing I do on a regular basis, which I don't have to do right now, is because I'm so used to doing it, I stop once in a while during the day. I'm walking the New York City streets of New York City. I'm seeing all these people, and I'm wondering, does any one of these people know that they're the totality of the universe in that body, that they are a walking universe? Do they know that? Are they aware of that? And, I look around and I see people just, like a herd, following whatever they're being told to do by the collective mind. And that's the hypnosis of social conditioning. So I stop in the midst of this and say, am I aware right now? Then I ask myself, what am I aware of? What am I listening? What am I hearing? What am I seeing? What am I feeling? Basically, sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. That's the fundamental experience of reality. Sensations, which include sense perceptions, and that then you can take it as deep as you want. You close I close my eyes and the physical world disappears. All is there is sounds, and then sensations in my body, and maybe some thoughts and some things I'm thinking of. Then I take my attention off the sounds. All you have to do is shift your attention from sound to sensations, and then all that's left. And progressively, till I slowly withdraw my attention from everything I'm experiencing. What's left? The infinite. What's left is the infinite, fundamental, without cause, incomprehensible awareness. Now, that's a journey that took years in the past. They're all looking at the stars in the sky, and they're struggling with very fundamental questions. Who am I? What do I want? Do I have a purpose? What's the meaning of this existence? And then it goes on. Do I fear death, old age, infirmity? There's no end to these questions, by the way. And some luminaries did have those experiences. And if I look at all the fundamental experiences of all the luminaries, there's a common thread. Number one, they find their identity beyond space and time. Because if we started this conversation by saying, where is this experience happening? And the answer is, it's happening beyond space and time.
Mm.
There's no other answer. There is no, this is not happening on the screen. It's not happening in your eyes. It's not happening in your brain. It's happening in consciousness, which is not in space-time.
Mm.
So whoever these great luminaries were, they found an identity which is beyond space and time, which is not subject to birth or death, number one. Number two, they had the spontaneous emergence of Platonic values, truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, and those 12 questions that you asked. They spontaneously felt that. And number three, they lost the fear of death because they realized that death happens to the fluctuations of consciousness, but not to consciousness. They tried to express this, but they couldn't. Rumi says God's language is silence, everything else is poor translation. I don't know how to express the ineffable, because that experience is ineffable. But it is the common ground of all experience in all philosophers, in all sages, in all psychotics, in all geniuses. Now we have tools to see, tap into their minds. What were they experiencing? What were the sages of the Upanishads experiencing? What did Schopenhauer mean or Immanuel Kant mean? You cannot know the real reality. Okay, the real reality, as Rumi said, is behind the curtain. In truth, we are not here. This is our shadow. Wittgenstein, our life is a dream. We are asleep, but once in a while we wake up enough to know that we're dreaming. So who's the dreamer? Where is the dreamer? What is the dreamer? It's not the human body mind. It's that which is experiencing the human body mind.
Okay, wow. Okay, everybody, we should just press pause for a second and let you just process all of that. But since I can't do that, I want to continue down this idea, this road of who we are. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. So, as an adult, are you carving out time, on a weekly basis to learn new things and to grow and do it as often as you like? Or is the day-to-day kind of getting you so busy that you forget to ever recapture that kind of childlike joy and enthusiasm you had in your life? Just like the wonder of being a child again. And one of the things that, if you really want to change things in your life, you should look at therapy. What I love about BetterHelp is it can be done online. If you don't vibe with the therapist, you can switch at any time. And therapy can really help you connect with kind of your sense of wonder again. Get back to that childlike joy and enthusiasm you had. Therapy is helpful for learning different things about life, but also learning about yourself and becoming more self-aware. So here's all you got to do. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime you want for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/edshow today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/edshow. And because you brought this up, and I've always wanted to ask you this, I know this is even true for me. So when I'll say us as humans, at some point, I don't know what age, Deepak, but at some point in our lives, we just sort of become a story.
Yeah.
And you write about this in the book. And sort of everything we do from that point in our lives is sort of to confirm the story that we're telling ourselves about who we are. And this creates these patterns. Some people are aware they're doing it, but most people are completely unaware that they're just living this story. How does one interrupt that story and have the potential to change that narrative internally so that they can create a different life?
So the story is actually very complicated story, because it's a provisional story. It's your destiny as a conscious being is to play an infinity of roles, but you're not the roles you're playing. Okay, like a great Shakespearean actor. One day you can, in the old days, by the way, you could be a woman, it could be a man. So one day you could play Cleopatra, the next day Julius Caesar, the third day whatever. So like a great Shakespearean actor, you're playing a lot of roles. You're a son, you're a father, you're a husband, you're whatever, you're switching roles, you're a professional. There are innumerable, right now, you're playing the role of a podcaster with me. But, you know, as soon as this over, you'll be playing other roles. Who is it? What is it that is playing those roles? It's you, which say, I am, before you say, I am Ed. Before you say, I am Ed, I am. And that I am can play an infinite number of roles. So first you have to realize that, you know, since you are playing the role, you're the producer, you're the director, you're the choreographer, you're the hero, and you're the villain of your story. Okay. Now, how many versions of those stories are there? Infinite, because that which is playing the roles is formless, is infinite, you know. Tagore, the great Indian poet, said, in this playhouse of infinite forms, I caught sight of the formless, and then my life was blessed.
Mm.
So, great spiritual experience is to create a relationship with that which is formless. And now, you know, there's a simple way to even do that. As you're looking at me, you just become aware of the space between you and me.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that space has no form.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And yet, without the space, there's no forms in it. In fact, the forms in space are the fluctuations of the formless. So your mind, your body, and your experience of the world is the fluctuations of your formless self. And it's a journey. But, you know, because I'm convinced that even that which we call the physical universe
Mm-hmm.
is actually has its origins in a digital workshop outside of space-time, whatever you might call it, the infinite, because everything is digital. The difference between this, you, me, the whiskey behind you,
Mm-hmm.
and the books behind me are just zeros and ones. Everything is 0, 1, and infinite. So that's my new formula, which I didn't put in the book,
I
because
love that.
0 is
Yeah,
1 is equal to infinite.
I love that. I love that. Do you feel like most people are, see, I was going to go hours with you, but I can't. So do you think, do you think most people are in their own way? And if they are, like someone's listening to this right now, they're like, okay, I'm a series of patterns and stories. Um, I obviously am understanding a little bit more deeply now about this whole idea of space and time continuum, that I'm creating this world I've got around me to some extent, or to all extent.
All except.
So how does one, is it just the awareness of that, or is there a daily practice? Is there something, I know meditation's so prominent in your life and mine, that someone could say, all right, I'm in my own way. I'm in my own way. I know I am. I'm this pattern of stories, and I want to interrupt that. You've talked about a spiritual experience can interrupt that pattern. Is there something else I can do, or a tip into an insight into how to create that spiritual experience so that I can get out of my own way?
Yeah, see, what is in the way is not you.
Mm,
What is in the way is, and I'm not saying this condescendingly, what is in the way is ignorance of reality.
mm,
Ignorance of reality. And the word ignorance is a very interesting word. Ignorance. In order for you to focus on what I'm saying, you have to ignore everything else.
mm,
Okay? So anytime you focus on one particular story, you're
mm,
ignorant of all the other stories.
mm,
Okay? Or anything. These days, we call it reductionism or specialization. And so when if you're a cancer therapist and you're seeing a patient with cancer, the usual oncologist doesn't care what your relationship is with your wife, what your relationship is with children, how much you sleep, what kind of food. They want to make a diagnosis, and they want to treat the diagnosis.
mm,
And in order to do that, they have to ignore everything else that's happening in your life. Okay, everything else that's happening. So first you realize, that which is causing a problem in my awakening to my self-realization. It's a very interesting word, self-realization. I realize what I am, not even who I am, what I am, because in that what I am is happening all these stories. Okay, so first I have to realize that I am ignorant as Ed,
Hmm.
but I am not ignorant as I am.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So get rid of what would I be without any story?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where you start. Then you say, which story do I want to choose right now? And by the way, we choose the story in the moment. We may say we plan this, we plan that. Who would have known 3 weeks ago that Trump would be attacked? Okay, who would have known that Biden would have stepped down? I
Right.
mean, look at any situation; it's
Right.
in the realm of the unknown. You can try and guess, but actually it's in the realm of the infinite unknown. And so once you surrender to the infinite unknown and actually seek freedom from the known, because the known is the prisoner of the past.
The n- is the prisoner of the past. Yeah.
Yeah. And what the unknown is the fresh ground of infinite stories, infinite possibilities, infinite potential.
Are you afraid to die?
No, not at all. In fact, every night I do a meditation on my death. I imagine my body going to the cremation grounds, being burnt, dust to dust, and nothing left. And then I say, who is imagining that? What is imagining that? Now let me try and get rid of that which is imagining death. And you can't. Just like you can't get rid of the space, you can't get rid of
That's
consciousness.
so awesome right there. That is so awesome right there. It's the if you listen to this show for a while, you've heard me and my guests talk a lot about how critical it is to have your wellness goals in order, especially lately with me. So you know how powerful visualization is. When you visualize yourself 1, 10, 30 years from now, you've achieved all your goals. Ask yourself this: am I healthy at that point? In your visions, of course you are. But like anything else, without a plan to get and remain healthy, you can't hit the goal. That's why I'm so thrilled to be partnering with Life Force. It's co-founded by my good friend Tony Robbins and Peter Diamandis. Life Force is a leader in proactive care. The Life Force membership includes everything you need to understand your wellness and help you make good decisions today that keep you on track in the future for your health. Listeners of my show get $250 when they first sign up for their membership by going to mylifeforce.com/ed. That's mylifeforce.com/ed. Take control of your wellness with Life Force and see what the healthiest version of you actually looks like and is capable of. These products and statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Intersection of ego, which interesting. I had a friend of mine the other day, on the surface, a very humble person. In fact, I would say someone who lacked self-confidence. And they're always down. They're always sad. And I love this person. I've known them 30 years. And I said, it was interesting because then I read this in your book like the next day. But I said, I just think you have a huge ego. And I think people conflate confidence and ego. They're different things. And she said to me, she said, well, I'm so down on myself. How could you say I have an ego? I said, well, you're just so centered around the story you keep telling yourself about you. And so I don't think confidence, I think you can have no confidence and still have a huge ego. And you talk about this in the book like so beautifully. But I think if I don't ask you this question, I'm not serving the audience a little bit. But could many people that are struggling in their life right now be struggling because they have an ego they're unaware of?
Well, everyone has an ego. We call it your self-image. It's not yourself, it's your self-image.
Image.
Image.
Yeah.
And it's a social construct again, because it has no inherent independent reality.
Hmm.
It is based on who's thinking what of me, who am I
Right.
superior to, who am I inferior to, all of that.
Mhm.
So it has no independent existence. It's a socially induced hallucination. And when it takes over, your body contracts. You see, that's the sign.
Mhm.
If when my ego becomes dominant, it also my body becomes contracted. My heart rate variability decreases. My heart rate goes up. There's sympathetic overdrive in the nervous system. So, how's the best way to deal with the ego? Well, even the question is the ultimate melodrama of the ego, because your spirit doesn't care. So, the way you deal with it is you feel your body. Every time you feel contracted, you bring awareness. You relax into it. And the ultimate sign of the disappearance, ego will never disappear as long as you're in a living body.
Mm.
But the ultimate sign of being free of the ego is what we call lightness of being,
Mm.
where you're not anticipating the future, you're not resisting the past, you're not attached to a story. You go from, I would say, you go from survival, safety, to adaptation, to thriving, to flourishing, to flow, to awakening. That's
Wait.
the
What is intuition? When do you tap into intuition and how do you have it?
Intuition is a form of intelligence that is contextual, that is relational, that is holistic, that doesn't have a win-lose orientation. It's eavesdropping into what I would call the block universe, future, past, and present.
Mm.
And that's the domain of spirit. And intuition, when you actually have it, is not fear-based.
Mm.
You've tapped into something, a knowing that is far more accurate, precise than the rational mind, because rational mind only operates cause effect, when everything is contextual.
Mm.
And so intuition is the prelude to creativity, and creativity is the prelude to higher consciousness and vision. And, the unknowable becomes little more known to you.
That's so amazing. Everyone needs to know something. I know I've talked about Wayne Dyer, my friend Wayne Dyer, you guys, many times with all of you, and he was a dear, dear friend of Deepak's, better friend of his than mine by a mile. So I've been watching this man and his works affected me for, I'm talking about Deepak here, for, I don't know, 30, 35 years. And I wanted to ask you this. This is personal, but I think it'll be insight for everybody. It's nothing to do with your book, just you. If I met you at 50 years old, okay, and how old are you now, Deepak, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm going to be 78,
70.
but biologically, I don't feel that,
By the way, and he doesn't look at you guys. If you saw,
I'm,
you mentioned that he's 78 years old. Those of you that are on YouTube, you're going, yep, I want to have that head of hair and look that fit at 78 years old. He looks incredible. What's different about you now? If I'd have met that man compared to this man, your outlook on life, spirituality, death, God, the quantum field, anything you want to touch on, how different are you from that man, if at all?
uh, the one thing that is distinctly different is I don't feel like I need to defend my point of view. That, we're all on a journey, and we're all like in a spiral staircase. It recycles and then it goes a little bit up.
Mhm.
So I don't judge people anymore. I watch the political landscape and I see the chaos and the madness of and the insanity of the regular human condition: war, terrorism, social economic injustice, eco-destruction, climate change, chronic disease, depression. And I used to get very upset by that. But if the infinite is infinite, there's room for everyone. And we're all on this spiral staircase. So, I watch the show more than want to participate in it anymore. And I also don't feel I need to prove a point or defend a point of view, because, there are infinite points of view
Mhm.
also. So generally in conversations, I don't participate that much unless I'm asked a question. Then I reflect on the question before I answer it, because, that question comes from a person who's in their own world. And if I say something like this conversation was in a way otherworldly, most people say, forget it, I want to pay my mortgage.
Right.
So, so you have to realize that too.
He
I
said
think
the show, everybody. That term, the show, to you, the biggest influence Deepak's had on me, and I'm a Christian. You all know I'm a devout Christian, and the most the the deepest impact he's had on me is that I've become more of an observer of the show, of what's
that
going on around me, and I've become more aware of myself.
That's
And
it.
it's such a, it's, and I'm so grateful for that, I,
And by the way, that is the highest intelligence. To observe yourself and the show without judgment is the highest intelligence.
okay, good. Then this alcohol thing's working for me. I'm just kidding.
Uh,
I'm just kidding, everybody. I'm just teasing. No, I appreciate that. That's been and by the way, it's such a peaceful disconnecting from stress experience to just observe and become more observant of yourself and aware and realize that it is really, I think the show is such a powerful way to phrase it. It's just a show. The whole thing is a show, not just the political stuff. The whole thing's a show. And
Absolutely.
and I've enjoyed it so much. Okay, last couple hard questions for you. I've enjoyed today immensely, as I always do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey guys, when you think about businesses growing beyond their forecast, you could think about something like Feastables by Mr. Beast, right? Or even a legacy business like Mattel. And obviously, you think about the product they have to have and branding and the influence and all that other stuff. But what most people don't think about enough is the behind the scenes. And the behind the scenes of businesses, things like making things easier for shoppers, buying, etc., is really simple. And for millions of businesses, including mine, that business is Shopify. I don't even know what I would do without them when it comes to my books, my gear. Basically, everything we do goes through Shopify, just like Mr. Beast or Mattel or many of the other big brands that you know. So nobody does it better than Shopify, number one checkout place on the planet. And the not so secret Shop Pay, which boosts conversions by 50%. All these things come only with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Mr. Beast gets with Feastables at Shopify. Sign up for your $1 a month trial period at shopify.com/Mylett, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Mylett to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Mylett. The AI thing, let's go back, let's shift back a little bit, just because I promised this to the audience. There are some concerns that could be, over a period of time, become one's deity to some extent. That is a risk. I think you'd have to agree with me. I'm wondering to what extent you worry about that AI itself 10, 15, 20 years from now, because of just familiarity and the pattern of accessing it for what to think or what to feel, becomes some form of a deity in people's lives. And it was actually a question my audience wanted me to ask you, knowing you were coming on. So,
Yuval Harari, who wrote *Sapiens*, then wrote another book where he basically said that the church will be replaced by AI and it'll become an institution by itself that we will worship.
mm,
I feel that AI is ultimately a large language model. That's all it is. And, the entire human civilization was created by language. About 40,000 years ago, there were six types of humans: homonyms or hominids. We are part of a larger family, like the cat family includes your cat, but also tigers, lions, cheetahs, and panthers. We had eight different types of humans. One species changed. Why? Because they created a language that went beyond danger calls, mating calls, and food calls. They created stories. To be human is a story. And then it didn't stop. The next story was money, institutions, empire states, colonialism, and on and on. Latitude, longitude. Without those stories, this experience is not possible.
mm,
Now, AI has taken the next leap. It is stories and narratives that use multiple languages. So not just this language, but language of physics, of biology, of anthropology, of philosophy, of science. So in a way, AI gives us access to all the models of reality that human beings have created. And therefore, it's our access, once again, to the divine. But AI is not divine. Okay? It's like the roadmap. The other day, I was in Aspen. I went to somebody's house, and little house, but they had signs to Madrid, so many miles, Rome, so many miles,
mm.
Sao Paulo, so many miles from this
Yeah,
place, and all these road signs. AI is the multiple language model
very
that is
good.
pointing to all these places that we can visit in
Very
consciousness.
good. That's very good. Okay, last question. So off camera, I'm not going to say where I was, but your son and I and some other folks had shared an experience together. And I've got to know your son a little bit. Gotham, by the way, he's got a great son, one of the coolest producers on the planet. If you like sports, his son is the guy. But in any event, I enjoyed an experience that we shared together. And one of the topics of discussion, I remember that day gone, if I interview Deepak again, I'm going to ask his dad this. So we were talking about the pursuit of happiness and whether it's something you actually pursue, and then went to, well, maybe you just tap into it because it already exists within you. And then I thought, well, I've talked to Deepak before, or is that just a label of a feeling or an emotion? And so I actually wish I asked you this earlier in the interview. I hope everybody's still stuck around because I think this will be good. But what is happiness? How do we experience it, define it, and do we pursue it, chase it, tap into it, or is it a fallacy altogether?
Happiness is a feeling, an experience that is the opposite of sadness. Okay, so it's a feeling, it's an emotion. It's not what we call joy. Okay, there's a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is always for a reason. And so when the reason goes away, you're not happy anymore. You become sad. But joy is fundamental and has no reason. If you're joyful, it's because you're happy for no reason whatsoever, like a baby. You see, a baby is joyful unless it's hungry or unless it is wet, in which case it says, "Ah," and then the mother gives it a bottle or changes the diaper. But then it's back to its baseline state of joy. It smiles, it's looking around, it's curious, it's full of wonder, it's it's trying to catch your eyes, etc. The baby is a joyful being till all these stories come. You're Ed, you're Caucasian, you're this, you're that, you stand for this, that, the other. Now you have to seek happiness because there's so much contradiction in your experience of the world. So right now, social scientists actually have created something called the happiness equation or the happiness formula. Here it is. H is equal to S plus C plus V. So H stands for happiness, is equal to S, set point in the brain. And that set point in the brain says, when you look at situations around you, do you first see problems or do you see opportunities? How is the set point determined? By your childhood. If your parents and your siblings or ecosystem that cared for you were complaining, condemning, criticizing, playing the victim, you'll grow up to be an unhappy person. If they were always joyful, happy, looking for opportunities, no matter what this, every adversity was a challenge and every challenge was an opportunity, you'll grow up to be a happy person. That set point determines 50% of your daily experience of happiness. So H is equal to S plus C. C is conditions of living. Are you rich? Are you poor? That adds about 10 to 12% to your daily happiness experience. If you're extremely poor, you're going to be unhappy because, you can't even survive without money. If you're extremely rich, you are likely to be unhappy because you confuse your self-worth with your net worth. Your net worth becomes, you look at the stock market, I'm a billionaire, I'm this, I'm this. Your ego takes over. So, and there's data now that if you win the lottery, you'll be ecstatic in the beginning. In 6 months, you'll plateau. In 1 year, you'll return to your set point. Okay. And in 5 years, you may be more unhappy than you were before you won the lottery, because now you're thinking, should I park my money in the Bahamas? How do I avoid taxes? All the problems that come with just focusing on that as your self-worth. So that leaves 40% of the remaining. H is equal to S plus C plus V. V stands for voluntary choices that we make every day. So we make two kinds of choices every day. One for personal pleasure, alcohol, drugs, sex, entertainment, food. Do they make us happy? Yeah, they do. Otherwise, why do people pursue them? But only temporarily. If you buy a new car, you'll be very happy. Now you want maybe a Tesla, then you want you want something else, you want a boat, you want a yacht, it never stops. And shopping is the number one activity that people engage in to feel happy. It makes them feel happy, but only for a few days. And if you have an addictive personality, then you risk that because you can't get enough of what you don't want anymore. That's called addiction. So yes, choices that bring us pleasure make us happy, but not permanently. There are other choices that make us happy, which is permanently. They're called fulfillment. And fulfillment happens when you have meaning and purpose in your life and when you make other people happy. Not by giving them gifts, but by being a good listener, attention, affection, by letting them know that you care, appreciation, by noticing that every human being is unique, a walking universe, and gratitude. And if you can do that, then you're a happy person. But this has nothing to do with joy. Joy is once you go back to your spirit as the infinite formless. It's called Sat Chit Ananda in Sanskrit. Existence, awareness, and bliss, which is joy.
Thank you for that distinction. That was my favorite thing today for me. So thank you. What do you have going? What do you have going at Harvard on September 14th and 15th?
We have a 2.5-day conference. So now 13th, 14th, and 15th. It's called Sages and Scientists, where I bring together the luminary thought thinkers of the world. So we have the woman who described or who's created the software for the Mars landing. We have astrobiologists who are looking at life on other planets. And right now, the estimate is 60 billion habitable planets in just the Milky Way galaxy. Multiply that by 2 trillion galaxies. And the universe is teeming with life, according to astrobiologists. And there are departments of astrobiology at Harvard, Princeton, you name it, Cambridge, Oxford. So we have a number of astrobiologists coming. But then we are also discussing health and well-being, the future of the cosmos, the future of well-being, and the future of humanity. How do we tackle the big problems? War, social, economic injustice, climate change, health, all of that. So it's going to be an important conference, and people can check it out, sagesandscientists.org. And I'd love to see many people there. One last note, since we're talking about digital dharma, I have an AI right now called digitaldeepak.ai.
Great.
It's my digital twin. And if you want any follow-up questions to our conversation or anyone who wants them, they can just go to digital.deepak, ask the question in English, Spanish, or Arabic, and they'll hear me answering their questions as soon as they ask the question.
That's so powerful.
It's there right now.
I just want to thank you for impacting my life.
Oh, thank you, Ed. It's fun to talk to you.
Yeah, I love speaking with you. And one of the reasons I'm blessed to reach millions of people is because of you.
Well, listen, Ed, you are authentic, and that's all I care.
Thank you so much. Thank you. By the way, everybody, one more time, Digital Dharma, how AI can elevate your spiritual intelligence and your personal well-being. I think you can tell from this conversation, there's no wasted pages in this book. This man will not waste your time. So thank you so much again, Deepak, for being here today. God bless you, brother.
God bless you, Ed. Thank you.